Grade 12, here we are with Unit 2, Lies and Truth. We're going to look at Reading 1 right now. Okay, but before we do that, I want you to take a look at the title of this unit, Lies and Truth. So we're going to talk about lying and the truth. Now, let's look at this picture. What is it you see in this picture? Serious faces, different people sitting all together. Now, if you are paying attention, you see here what is written on the door is jurors. So this is a jury for a court session. And these faces look very skeptical. Is this person telling the truth, or is this person lying? Exactly, that is what we're going to talk about. As to focus on our topic, let's look at number 1. What is happening in the photo? What do you think? Number 2, why do people lie? What do you think that people would lie? And should we be honest all the time? Number 3, what would happen to a society if no one ever told a lie? Think about that one. Write down your ideas so in our next meeting we can discuss it. Okay, that brings us finally to Reading 1, Looking for the Lie. And as we always do, we start off with the vocabulary, and let's look at the bold-faced words. The vocabulary that we're going to look at here in this Reading 1 section of Unit 2. The first one is spot. Second, deception, betrayal, malicious, outright, cunning, empirical, quest. And the next page, we've got delusions, foolproof, plagued by. Okay, those are the words. Now, one thing for certain is that you should know the meaning of the words. Now, what you can do is go into a search engine to figure out what the meaning is. Maybe you would like to look the words up in Bahasa Indonesia to know what it means. But basically, you can also figure out what the meaning is of the word by looking at the context. And if we're talking about context, that would mean all the information that comes before the bold-faced word. So all this up to here, and the information that comes after the bold-faced word. That is called context, and that context can help you understand what the word means. Now, it is your job right now to write a synonym for the bold-faced words. So you do not have a box where you can pick from right now. You have to come up with a synonym. If that is a little bit hard, you can just use your search engine to figure out what the correct synonym would be, or there can be several choices even, not even just one. What could be a good synonym for spot? Okay, use the context of the sentences to help you determine the meaning of the word. Okay, so you're going to pause your video and answer number 1 until 11. Go ahead. Awesome, that brings us to previewing. Now, let's see what we can preview before we read this text. I would like you to look at the title and look at whether there are headings in this text, and look at any visuals that you can see, and then predict the type of text and the purpose of this text. And while you're doing this, please annotate the keywords in the title and or the subheadings. Take some time to do that. Now here we can see Looking for the Lie. So this is the title in New York Times Magazine by Robert Morant Hennig. There's a picture of a lady with her fingers crossed. We have several paragraphs. It's quite a long text. And there we go. Okay. In previewing, it is very important that you can come up with the type of text. Now, the type of text, what is this? Is an article, okay? And this one can appear in a magazine. A magazine mostly holds articles. Other articles often also have subheadings, you know, there's tiny titles. Apparently this one does not have any headings. Now, by looking at the title, Looking for the Lie, what are the keywords if you look at this? Looking and lie. Exactly. Yeah, the picture of the lady with her fingers crossed. Let's hope that they don't find out. Yeah, that kind of gives you that kind of image or idea. Okay. Before we're going to read the article about lying and the role it plays in our lives, I'd like you to think about these 2 points. Number one, do you know when someone is lying to you? I want you to answer this. And number two, is there a way to accurately tell whether someone is lying or telling the truth? Could you really accurately say? Please answer questions 1 and 2 as a part of your preview before we continue. You can pause your video. Okay, that brings us to reading the text. Now, before we jump into reading the text, I really want you to skim it right now. Okay, skim the text, please. As you know, for skimming, we can look for the main idea. When we skim, we read the first paragraph, the topic sentence of each body paragraph, and we read the concluding paragraph. I'm gonna give you some time to skim the text first before we jump into intensive reading. Okay, remember we've got previewing, when we predict the type of text and the purpose by looking at the title, headings, and visuals. Second, skimming, when we read the introductory paragraph, every topic sentence, and concluding paragraph to get the main idea of the text. And we have intensive reading, where we only read the body paragraphs and we focus on the main points. And we've got scanning, where we are going over the text to find keyword. Now, whether you're previewing, whether you're skimming, whether you're intensive reading or you are scanning, you always have to annotate, always underline, circle, or highlight the keywords. Okay, now pause your video and skim your text. And while you're doing that, please annotate it. Good luck. Cool, good job. Now we're going to go into reading. You can read and listen along. Please also listen for pronunciation and intonation of the speaker.
Looking for the Lie. New York Times Magazine by Robin Marantz Hennig. When people hear that I'm writing an article about deception, they're quick to tell me how to catch a liar. Liars always look to the left, several friends say. Liars always cover their mouths, says a man sitting next to me on a plane. Beliefs about lying are plentiful and often contradictory. Depending on whom you choose to believe, liars can be detected because they fidget a lot, hold very still, cross their legs, cross their arms, look up, look down, make eye contact, or fail to make eye contact. Freud thought anyone could spot deception by paying close enough attention, since the liar, he wrote, chatters with his fingertips. Betrayal oozes out of him at every pore. Nietzsche wrote that the mouth may lie, but the face it makes nonetheless tells the truth. The idea that liars are easy to spot is still with us. Just last month, Charles Bond, a psychologist at Texas Christian University, reported that among 2,520 adults surveyed in 63 countries, more than 70% believe that liars avert their gazes. The majority believe that liars squirm, stutter, touch, or scratch themselves, or tell longer stories than usual. The liar stereotype exists in just about every culture, Bond wrote, and its persistence would be less puzzling if we had more reason to imagine that it was true. What is true, instead, is that there are as many ways to lie as there are liars. There's no such thing as a dead giveaway. Most people think they're good at spotting liars, but studies show otherwise. A very small minority of people, probably fewer than 5%, seem to have some innate ability to sniff out deception with accuracy. But in general, even professional lie catchers, like judges and customs officials, perform, when tested, at a level not much better than chance. In other words, even the experts would have been right almost as often if they had just flipped a coin. Most of the mechanical devices now available, like the polygraph, detect not the lie, but anxiety about the lie. The polygraph measures physiological responses to stress, like increases in blood pressure, respiration rate, and electrodermal skin response. So it can miss the most dangerous liars, the ones who don't care that they're lying or have been trained to lie. It can also miss liars with nothing to lose if they're detected, the true believers willing to die for the cause. Serious lies can have a range of motives and implications. They can be malicious, like lying about a rival's behavior in order to get him fired, or merely strategic, like not telling your wife about your mistress. Not every one of them is a lie that needs to be uncovered. We humans are active, creative mammals who can represent what exists as if it did not, and what doesn't exist as if it did, wrote David Nyberg, a visiting scholar at Bowdoin College, in The Varnished Truth. Concealment, obliqueness, silence, outright lying all help to keep nemesis at bay. All help us abide two large helpings of reality. Learning to lie is an important part of maturation. What makes a child able to tell lies, usually at about age 3 or 4, is that he has begun developing a theory of mind, the idea that what goes on in his head is different from what goes on in other people's heads. Deception is, after all, one trait associated with the evolution of higher intelligence. According to the Machiavellian intelligence hypothesis, developed by Richard Byrne and Andrew Whiten, two Scottish primatologists at the University of St. Andrews in Fife, the more social a species, the more intelligent it is. This hypothesis holds that as social interactions become more and more complex, our primate ancestors evolved so they could engage in the trickery, manipulation, skullduggery, and sleight of hand needed to live in larger social groups, which helped them to avoid predators and survive. All of a sudden, the idea that intelligence began in social manipulation, deceit, and cunning cooperation seems to explain everything we had always puzzled about, Byrne and Whiten wrote. In 2004, Byrne and another colleague, Nadia Korp, looked at the brains and behavior of 18 primate species and found empirical support for the hypothesis. The bigger the neocortex, the more deceptive the behavior. Lying is just so ordinary, so much a part of our everyday lives and everyday conversations, that we hardly notice it, said Bella DePaulo, a psychologist at the University of California, Santa Barbara. And in many cases, it would be more difficult, challenging, and stressful for people to tell the truth than to lie. DePaulo said that her research led her to believe that not all lying is bad, that it often serves a perfectly respectable purpose. In fact, it is sometimes a nobler, or at least kinder option than telling the truth. I call them kind-hearted lies, the lies you tell to protect someone else's life or feelings, DePaulo said. A kind-hearted lie is when a genetic counselor says nothing when she happens to find out, during a straightforward test for birth defects, that a man could not have possibly fathered his wife's new baby. It's when a neighbor lies about hiding a Jewish family in Nazi-occupied Poland. It's when a doctor tells a terminally ill patient that the new chemotherapy might work. And it's when a mother tells her daughter that nothing bad will ever happen to her. The federal government has been supporting research recently to look for machines that detect the brain tracings of deception. But the quest might be doomed to failure, since it might turn out to be all but impossible to tell which tracings are signatures of truly dangerous lies and which are the images of lies that are harmless and kind-hearted or self-serving without being dangerous. Alternatively, the quest could turn out to be more successful than we really want, generating instruments that can detect deception not only as an anti-terrorism device, but also in situations that have little to do with national security, job interviews, tax audits, classrooms, boardrooms, bedrooms. But it would be destabilizing indeed to be stripped of the half-truths and delusions on which social life depends. As the great physician essayist Lewis Thomas once wrote, a foolproof lie detection device would turn our quotidian lives upside down. Before long, we would stop speaking to each other. Television would be abolished as a habitual felon. Politicians would be confined by house arrest, and civilization would come to a standstill. It would be a mistake to bring such a device too rapidly to market before considering what might happen not only if it didn't work, which is the kind of risk we are accustomed to thinking about, but also what might happen if it did. Worse than living in a world plagued by uncertainty, in which we can never know for sure who is lying to whom, might be to live in a world plagued by its opposite, certainty about where the lies are, thus forcing us to tell one another nothing but the truth.
Okay, that's the end of the text, and that brings us to the main idea. So the first thing we did was we previewed to get a focus on predicting what the text type is and the purpose, and knowing our direction, and knowing that this is an article and therefore informative. We read the text intensively while reading, annotating it, and now we're going to go into the comprehension of the main idea and the main points of the text. Now, number one asks you, look again at the preview, could you see how your previewing, looking at the title and the visuals helped you to set your focus, and how the questions that you came up with were helpful, or answering the two questions were helpful to get a good focus on the text. Number two, you are going to underline 3 sentences in the article that express the main points the author is presenting. This is not that easy, but you can do this. Okay, I'm going to ask you to pause your video and underline 3 sentences in this article, 3 sentences, but those sentences express the main points or kind of a sub-main idea of this whole text. Remember, if it comes to main ideas, that the thesis statement in the introduction has the general main idea that covers the whole text, but the topic sentences of each body paragraph, they function like a sub-main idea. Yeah, like the thesis statement is the big general main idea, which has a general topic and purpose. A topic sentence is a smaller sub-main idea that has a subtopic and a purpose. Okay? Now, underline 3 sentences that kind of cover this text. You can pause your video and do that. Go ahead. Okay, that brings us to the next part, which is the details. After having done the comprehension of the main idea and main points, and knowing that there is a general main idea and a sub-main idea, the general main idea in the thesis statement and a sub-main idea in the topic sentence, now we're going to look at the details. You're going to look at 11 statements or sentences, and you're going to decide whether that sentence is true. You would have to write the capital letter T, or false, you would write the capital letter F. How do I do this? Now, as we talked about the 3 skills just now, previewing, right? We did that already. Skimming, we did already. Now, by answering the main idea questions just now, you also, here you underlined 3 sentences, you also have to skim. So basically, in order for you to know the main idea, you always go back to the thesis statement, topic sentences, and the concluding paragraph. That's how you can get your main idea, and that's where you focus on. Sometimes the first sentence of a body paragraph, sometimes the topic sentence drops to the second sentence, but that is hardly ever. But that could happen, then just read not only the first but the second sentence as well. But while we're focusing on details, we have to scan. Finding details, you have to scan. So the way you do that is in these sentences, always annotate. Previewing, skimming, scanning, all you do, boy, you can't go far from annotating, okay? Okay. So what you do here is you underline or circle the keywords in all these sentences, and then you're gonna go scan through the text. You're not gonna read the text, but go over the text. So basically, if I were to look at the text, I wouldn't be reading this, but I would be going over it until I find the keyword I'm looking for. But remember, a lot of the words are paraphrased, so they use different synonyms, different words. They use synonyms. So don't specifically look for the exact same keyword, but look for a keyword that is similar in meaning. And you look for it, and then oh, here it is. Here I find it. And then when you find the location, then you go back to the beginning of the paragraph and you read it all the way to the point where you were until you're done with the paragraph, and then you can get your answer or grasp the meaning. And that's how you're going to look for details. So underline or circle the keywords in the sentences, and then scan the text to find the correct location. Read the paragraph then to see whether it is true or false. You can pause your video. Good luck. We are at making inferences right now. As you know, an educated guess combining facts, literal points that are stated in the text, and from looking at those facts, we can come up with a conclusion, an implied meaning, right? An analytical question, exactly. When we interpret an author's words, we practice reading between the lines. Interpreting means translating. Reading between the lines means that you're not only reading what is written there, but you want to know the underlying meaning of something. The way something is said can give a certain emotion. So what you want to grasp when you're reading between the lines is not only the practical or the technical words and terms that you hear, but you really also want to know in between the lines the underlying meaning of what the author is saying. You do that to understand the author's intention of why he's writing it, and even when it's not stated openly or explicitly, yeah, being able to read between the lines is an important comprehension skill. Okay, look at the example and read the explanation. The liar stereotype exists in just about every culture, and its persistence would be less puzzling if we had more reason to imagine that it was true. Paragraph 2. A. The liar stereotype is widespread and true. B. The liar stereotype is widespread and false. Now, the answer in this case is B. The use of the present unreal conditional would be less puzzling if we had more reason to imagine, makes it clear that the liar stereotype, although widely believed, is in fact not true. So, by reading this statement and looking at the underlying meaning, reading between the lines, we know that the answer is B. Okay, what I want you to do, I want you to read the sentences, and I want you to read each quote from reading one, and you go back to the paragraphs where they appear, and there's a reference, yeah, here it's stated, and then you choose A or B to explain what the author means by the quote. So you cannot just read the quote and then answer. When you read this quote, you have to go back to paragraph 4 and then read the whole paragraph, because you cannot just know the meaning from one sentence. In order to know this, you need to read the whole paragraph. Okay, you can't know an underlying meaning from one sentence. You need to see the context. Pause your video and answer numbers 1 and 3 until 3. Awesome. That brings us to the last part of reading 1. Of unit 2 is expressing opinions, and as you guys already know, it's super important to reason, yeah, to think about concepts and things and come up with an opinion. Then the second step would be to come up with reasons why you have that opinion, and the third step is that can you show the result? What does your opinion or your mindset result into, or how can it affect other people or circumstances, or what effect does it have on you and the world around you? Okay, let's look at the first one, number one. Robin Marans Hennig categorizes these lies as kind-hearted lies. That's in paragraph 8. A doctor telling a terminally ill patient that the new chemotherapy might work. The researcher not telling a man that his wife's baby is not his. A husband not telling his wife about his mistress. Are these really kind-hearted lies, or are they tragic lies to protect the feeling of the doctor, the researcher, or the husband? Don't people have a right to the truth? Please state your opinion on this one. Number two, Hennig writes that it would be destabilizing indeed to be stripped of the half-truths and delusions on which social life depends. Paragraph 10. Explain what she means. Do you agree or disagree with her? And please tell me why. Please answer these questions, give your reasons, and if possible, even what it results into, how it affects the people around you, and what effect it might have on yourself, on your, or even your own environment. Okay, that brings us to the end of reading one. Real quick, we went over our vocabulary in context, and you had to come up with synonyms. One would be enough, but there could be multiple. We went over previewing, skimming, and scanning. And we understood how main ideas work, as the thesis statement is the general main idea, and every topic sentence is basically the sub-main idea. As the thesis statement holds the general topic and purpose, every topic sentence holds the subtopic and purpose. And then we continued with the comprehending details, and we know that we can find details by annotating the keywords in the sentences and then scanning through the text to find synonyms which have the same keywords, and so we would locate the correct place where to find the answer. For making inferences, we went over the author's work, how we can read between the lines to understand the intention of an author, not just reading what the author wrote, but also understanding why the author wrote that, or maybe the emotion that is behind it. And for that, we need to read between the lines to understand that. And last but not least, we expressed opinion on a statement, which I asked you to develop with reasons, and step 3, possibly also show what your opinion results into, or what effect it might have and how it can affect your environment. Great job. Thank you for going through this time and this part of the book with me today. I'll see you soon, and God bless you. Take care.